Hey guys, welcome back to Layla Teachers. Today we will speak about the academic writing part, which is my second video in the IELTS series. Starting with task 1, you can write a minimum of 150 words. If you write less than 150 words, you have a risk of losing marks. But if you write more than 150, that is not a problem. Just keep in mind that it does not mean that the more you write, the higher your chances of passing or getting a better grade. You have to complete this task in 20 minutes. You have an hour for the academic writing part. You have to spend 20 minutes on task 1 and 40 minutes on task 2 as per the instructions. You can be asked to describe one of many things. You can have a line graph such as this, where you have to compare two different things, and you'll have to use a language of change. For example, the number of people watching television in the UK rose significantly after 4 p.m. It peaked at 8 p.m. with approximately 45% of the British population being engaged viewers. You can have a bar chart. In this particular one, you'll have to use words to compare. You can have pie charts. Here normally you would use percentages, or for example a half, a quarter, 2/3, 1/4. You can have a table. A table is pretty straightforward, but the paragraphing becomes a bit tough. You can have a process diagram. Here the language is completely different when compared to the rest. You have to use the passive voice. For example, if you look at the last part of this process diagram, you can say that the bricks are packaged after removal from the cooling chamber and are then delivered. And then you can have maps where you have to use directions to explain or describe the map. So for example, southeast or northwest, or behind, in front of. You can also get two of these together. For example, you can have a line graph and a pie chart, and then using both of these types of graphs, you have to compare and describe accordingly. How are you going to paragraph this task? So the first paragraph should be the introduction. It depends how you want to paragraph it. For example, here in this graph bar chart, you have male and female. So if you want, you can have the first paragraph about females and the second paragraph about males. Or you can have the first paragraph about full-time education and the second paragraph about part-time education. But what I would recommend is to use full-time and part-time education. Why? Because it makes it very easy for the examiner to understand what you're saying. If you split it into years and if you split it into males and females, they'll have to keep going back and forth between both paragraphs to actually understand what you're trying to explain, or how different they are. So if you include both males and females in the first paragraph, only based on part-time education, and then the second one on full-time education, it would be much clearer. It is very important for you to decide how you're going to paragraph your task 1. So that's how I would do it, and that's what I would recommend you to do. And you can have a third paragraph if there's more information, or if there's another group, like they can have full-time, you can have part-time, and then you have contract-based, something like that. If that was also there, then you would have a third paragraph for that, but it is optional. What is absolutely necessary is the introduction, the part 1 and the part 2. Here is an example of a line graph from task 1. In the introduction paragraph, you have to mention the type of graph, whether it is line, bar, pie, or process diagram, map. You have to mention it. Then you have to mention the x-axis and the y-axis. So as you can see here, the years have been mentioned. The countries have been mentioned, which is not the x or y axis, but that's what the 4 different lines are representing. And then you have the y axis. So it is very important to mention all 3 things. The second statement will include what you can see just by throwing a quick glance at the graph or the diagram. The first thing that you see. The statement in the question will help you a lot. The graph shows the proportion of energy that was produced from coal in 4 European countries from 1995 to 2010. Now you just have to paraphrase this. You make the graph, the line graph, the proportion, you can say the expenditure of energy as a percentage. And then for the 4 European countries you can name the countries. And then for the time frame, you can either write that or you can say over a 15-year period from 1995 to 2010. So you just have to paraphrase the question for the first statement, and for the second statement, it is what you can clearly see. So overall, it is apparent that energy decreased in all 4 countries during this time frame, with Denmark and Germany showing drastic drops. So you can give a couple of examples, but you keep it very general and simple. If you take the computer-based Ielts, you will have the word count in front of you, but if you take the paper-based Ielts, you'll have to count the words yourself. That can be a little bit time-consuming. Always write the 3 paragraphs, the introduction, paragraph 1, and paragraph 2. If any of them is missing, you will not get the grade that you're seeking. Make sure you use the correct language for the particular graph. Try to group your paragraphs in the least confusing way possible, so the examiner does not have to move back and forth to understand what you're trying to describe. When you start the academic writing, I would recommend starting with task 1 first. Quickly write the introduction, you just have to paraphrase. Write the paragraphs 1 and 2 as a draft. And then later on, if you have time after completing task 2, you can go back, change some words, paraphrase more, check your spellings and everything. But get that down first so that if you take more time on task 2, at least you've got something going on in task 1. Alright guys, I'll see you in part 2. Take care. Bye.